Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second week of the Gridiron Football Player of the Week. And this is the Gridiron Football Player of the Week show. I'm your host, Jace Lejeune. I'm joined every week by Alex Allison. So we got an LSU beat writer, Southern beat writer in the house for Gridiron Football. And Alex, I'm really excited for you to join me and talk about the players of the week, so all the great performances over the week. And we're looking forward to talking about all these great performances that these athletes worked so hard over the offseason, prepare for the fall, and now they get the chance to show off their talents.
Yeah, I'm super excited for myself just through 2 weeks, just from some of the games that we've seen. You know, the level of performance required to not just win, but also to make the ballot is incredibly high. We've had tons of submissions in both of the first 2 weeks, and it's a really stiff level of competition. It shows just how great the level of play in high school in Louisiana has been, as well as across the country. We've had quite a number of, out-of-state submissions as well, both in submissions and making the ballot. And so I'm looking forward to it. It's been a great couple of weeks so far, and I'm super happy to be on here and be on here from week to week.
Yeah, Alex, and actually last week we weren't able to do really in person because of the hurricane and the storm, so I just did one virtually and announced all the winners, and Brian Broussard was our player of the week last week for St. Thomas More. Really briefly before we go into the nominees, what do you thought about Brian's performance, 4 interceptions, and being our player of the week last week?
Brian's a great player, one of the better defensive players that we've I think of the group of people that we've seen through the games that we've watched these first couple of weeks. He's one of the standouts. One player of the week last week had another pick. One player of the week in week 1 had another pick when he played Catholic last week. I'm actually going to be able to see him in person tomorrow when they take on Acadiana. So I'm super excited to be able to see him. Absolutely deserved. He had a great performance in week 1, and so just a great player and absolutely deserving of that Player of the Week award.
All right, Alex, let's get to it. Our Gridiron Football Player of the Week in week 2, and just keep in mind these were actually we had a lot of nominees, probably about 30, 40 nominees from across about 3 different states this week. I think Louisiana was represented, Texas was represented, Alabama was represented, and Florida. So 4 states this week. So we're looking forward to branch out a little bit more and more. And we actually had 12 final nominees, myself, Alex, and Daryl Felker, and we all went down and selected the final 12, and all these players are really deserving of it. But Alex, we're going to go with start off with our number 12 performer this week.
Number 12 for this week is Nate Shepard with 51 votes.
And Nate Shepard is a running back for Mandeville, class of 2025. He's actually one of the best running backs in the state of Louisiana. Commit to Duke, a Duke football commit, and he showed why he's a Power 4 commit, right? 164 rushing yards. Now, that doesn't include the all-purpose yards he had, but he had 164 on the ground, 5 rushing touchdowns, at a 6 receiving touchdowns. So with 6 touchdown performance, which we've seen a whole lot so far through 2 weeks in Louisiana, but a 6 touchdown performance helped Mandeville get a 52-43 win over Madison Prep.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about this game because he's not the last entry from this game to have made the top 12. But I think it shows you just how high the bar is to just get onto this. He finished 12th. 51 votes is not a bad number, but it's last out of all of these people. 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's like one of those a roller coaster. You must be this tall to ride. If you don't have at least 3 or 4 touchdowns and some insane number of yards, you're not even going to qualify for something like this. So huge props to him. It was a great performance and absolutely deserving of making this list. But it shows you just how difficult it is to get into that upper echelon of the top 10 and top 5 in any given week. If a 6 touchdown performance like this in a win against. We'll talk about a couple of other players that also had some sensational performances. If that is only going to get you at 12th, it shows you just how high this bar is going to be.
Absolutely, Alex. And remember, folks, this ranking is based on fan votes, not of our ranking of how the performance is. So it's off of fan votes. And we're going to go to our number 11, was actually on the losing end against Nate Shepard and company.
Yes, so number 11 is Tylan Tylan, I apologize. Tylan Johnson with 134 votes.
It's all good, Alex. I don't have the greatest handwriting at all, so I can help you out with that. Yeah, Tylan Johnson from Madison probably is a quarterback. You got a chance to see a little bit of him in the Jamboree. He's actually one of the top quarterbacks in the Baton Rouge area, and he had himself an efficient performance. Were down by a lot. They came back and made it a close game because of Tylan Johnson, what he was able to do throwing the football. Gave the Chargers a spark, right? Completed 21 of 31 passes for 409 yards and 4 touchdowns in a loss. Came in a loss, but impressive performance. Like I said, gave the Chargers a spark. There is a pun intended with that. Tylan Johnson, efficient performance. Usually throw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Usually win the game.
400 yards is the big standout number here. This has been a great couple of weeks for high school football, especially at the running back position. We'll talk about a lot of them throughout today, and then I'm sure throughout a lot of weeks. But for quarterback, we haven't seen as many insane gaudy numbers. We'll talk about a really efficient performance later, but 400 yards is going to stand out. Right now in this landscape of Louisiana high school football, throwing for 400 yards isn't very easy. We've had some great defenses, and he is having that's a great game. Even in a loss, it was an absolutely great performance.
And then we're going to number 10. It was actually going to be a preview. We have a couple of teams that had 2 different players on our list. This is one of them. We're going to go to our number 10 spot.
Yes, at number 10, we have Dedrick Welsh with 194 votes.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about his teammate, which will be coming up later on this list, a little sneak tease for that one. But Liberty with Andy Boone, we know that they're going to run the football. I call it like a phone booth offense. I mean, they keep everything really tight, and they're just trying to maul you up front. That's what they do. And it shows you Liberty with Andy Boone. They're going to feature the running backs, and the running backs are going to eat. And Dedrick Welsh did eat in this one. 13 carries for 205 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also had a 2-point conversion. I mean, I think he accounted for 32 points by himself. That would have been enough to win the game by himself. But I mean, that was one of the most eye-popping scores we saw in the state. 72-26 against a really good White Castle team at the 1A level, but big performance, and it shows you what kind of gaudy stat line it was running the ball for Liberty that night.
Poor White Castle. He put up these numbers. He's not even the highest ranked player on this list who played running back for Liberty this week.
Right.
5 touchdowns. It's a great 2-point conversion. He, at least, obviously, this isn't how football works, but he could have outscored White Castle all by himself, which just never happens in football. It's just a great performance. There's not that much to say about it. Liberty is a team that is built for these running backs to produce in this way, and like I said, we'll talk about that later. Just a great performance from Dedrick Welsh. If Liberty continues doing this, if this continues happening, that's not going to be the last time we talk about him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is that type of, like I said, this year in Louisiana, this is as deep of a running back year I've ever seen in the state. We talk about the big names, not only the big names, but some of these guys, like you just mentioned, from Liberty High School. But we're going to go to one of those premier running backs in the state of Louisiana at our number 9 spot.
At number 9, we have Xavier Ford with 234 votes.
And Xavier Ford's on this list as a finalist for 2 weeks in a row and is making a strong candidate for a Player of the Year nomination as well, based off his consistency. Xavier Ford, the numbers he's been having in 2 weeks has been like a season's worth for a lot of players. 31 carries for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns and a 49-32 win over Tioga. They needed every one of those touchdowns. Leesville definitely relies and leans on Xavier Ford. In 2 weeks, Alex, he's had 700 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. That's a season's worth. He's only done that in 2 games.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. There's no other way to put it. There will be plenty of very good running backs in a very loaded running back class, this class of 2025, that will have a season stat line that does not look that different from that. That especially the 12 touchdowns, 700 yards, you're going to hope that like a 4-star running back is going to outproduce that, but we're talking about 10 games, 11 games, 12 games. In 2 games to put up 700 yards of rushing is absolutely asinine. There's no again, words aren't great at describing it. We'll see some of the highlights here that'll do a lot better job of showing what we're talking about than anything we can say. Xavier Ford is fantastic. 400 yards in 1 game. We talked about a 400 yards passer. That's unbelievably impressive, but 400 yards passing is a thing that happens in football sometimes. 400 yards rushing, that's a video game number.
I know.
That's not supposed to happen in football, just at any point in time.
Yeah, I mean, you carry the ball, 30 times, too. That he's going to touch the football a lot. So defenses know what's coming, but it's easier said than done than trying to stop Xavier Ford from finding his way to 6 points.
It's like those middle 2010s LSU offenses.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, we're going to hand the ball off to Leonard Fournette. You know that we're going to hand the ball off to Leonard Fournette, and it just doesn't matter. He's going to get the ball 30 times.
That's a great segue because he's related to one of those former LSU running backs, Michael Ford. So Xavier Ford, he played at Leesville as well. So Leesville's always had some pretty good running backs, and Xavier Ford's keeping the tradition. Now, Alex, let's go into our number 8 spot. So far, it's been about the running backs right now on this list.
Yeah, there are other positions that play football as well. We are aware, don't worry. At number 8, we have Xavier Strow with 360 votes.
Yeah, he's up from North Darbon Woods Charter. He's a younger guy, a 2027 running back, so he's going to be a guy to keep an eye out for in the future. And like you said, had over 300 votes, 360. Talk about capitalizing on opportunities. I know Xavier Ford had, 30 carries, 40 carries. Well, Xavier was more of the fresher back, right? Only 6 carries, but the reason he's on this list, half of those carries went for touchdowns. He had 6 carries for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaged 27.5 yards a carry, which is ridiculous, as Darbon Woods Charter was able to get a 49-21 win over Bearden High School in Arkansas.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that I think are really important to think about when you're looking at this player right next to Xavier Ford, right above him, before we get into a kind of a tier jump in terms of number of votes, which again, reminder, this is on fan votes. So if you think there's somebody that ranked 10th and is like, well, that's not high enough. This guy scored 400 yards of offense, whatever. You can change that. You go out there and you keep voting, and you can. It is up to you guys, the fans, deciding who wins each week. With Xavier Strow, these are 2 very different performances, and it shows. One thing we consider when we're putting together these ballots is it shows the different situations that these different teams are in. With Xavier Ford, they won the game 49-32. They kind of needed all of those touchdowns, all of those yards. There's a reason why they gave him 30 carries in the game. Compare that to Strow, they won the game by 28 points. It was probably a game that was separated a little bit earlier. And so if you can just get him the right touches early in the game, where it's just chunk play, 6 carries for 165 yards, not just averaging a first down per carry, we're talking about averaging a quarter of the length of the field in every carry that you give. Absolutely, ridiculous numbers with 3 touchdowns. Both of those are really impressive for very different reasons, and it's not our choice to decide which one is better. It's your guys' choice.
Right.
And so we saw them be very close in this ranking for this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if 2 performances that look like this will end up having those kind of similar results in the future as well.
Well, we're not just about offense, right? I mean, in fact, our player of the week last week was a defensive guy. So we give love to the defensive guys. And for the first time on this list, we're going to go and move to the state of Texas, in Palestine, Texas, Westwood High School to be precisely, for our next player.
So with number 7, we have Boston Anderson with a bit of a tier jump in votes to 616.
Yeah, we know Westwood's going to go and vote for their guys, and they did this week. And in fact, the player of the year last year, we're going to talk about a little bit later, he is from the same school. But Boston Anderson is an outside linebacker, 2025. He's kind of one of those hybrid defensive end linebacker types, and he was all over the field in a higher scoring win over Timpson High School. 13 total tackles, 10 solo, 3 assists, 2 PBUs, 6 TFLs. That was very impressive, and reason why we had him on this list. You don't see that quite often in a football game nowadays. And 2 sacks and a big win over Timpson. Westwood stays on the field. We talk about their offense, but defensive players like Boston Anderson have been very key for this team as well.
Yeah, he's an edge rusher, and he's a really, really good one. We don't just have offensive players here. When a defensive player, it's admittedly sometimes more difficult because when you're looking at a box score, it's more difficult to stand out. But when you put up 6 tackles for loss in a game, a defensive player is going to have to make it and make a pretty good dent into this ranking, almost getting into the top half of these rankings at number 7. The outside linebacker that has 6 tackles for loss and 2 sacks and a PBU, he's doing everything. He's living everywhere on the field. You can't throw the ball because he's going to get in the backfield before you get there. You can't run the ball because he's going to tackle you behind the line. And even if he doesn't get to the quarterback, he can be a guy that disrupts the pass in multiple different ways, which is what I think is really impressive about this performance in particular, the versatility of the stat line and of the performance overall.
And we're going to go to, we're pretty much halfway through this list. We're going to go to number 6, and we talked about the quarterback from Madison Prep, but we're going to talk to a top receiver who cracks the top 6.
Number 6 is Keon Robinson with 714 votes.
And this is a senior-to-senior connection. We talk about Tylan Johnson, right, as a quarterback, threw for 400 yards. Well, there was no question about it. His top target was Keon Robinson in that game. It's crazy to have 2 players from the losing team over the winning team on this list, but that's what kind of game it was. Keon Robinson had 7 catches for, talk about taking advantage of opportunities, 266 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. High scoring affair, like we mentioned, 52-43. No shame in Madison Prep losing this game, as Mandeville was a semifinal team at the 5A level. So it showed you that the Chargers can air it out a little bit. And Keon Robinson, big numbers for a wide receiver to be on this list.
This is why you love high school football. These games like this that you just we didn't get to watch this game, but just from looking at these 3 stat lines alone, you get an idea of what happened in the game. And looking at the box score, Mandeville took a 30-something point lead in halftime ish, and Madison Prep with this quarterback wide receiver combination just exploded and turned it into a game. They ended up losing barely by 2 possessions, but turned it into this crazy game. And in high school football, it can just change like that. And it shows the explosiveness of this wide receiver, Keon Robinson. He only caught a third of the passes that were thrown to him, that were completed in this game, but he converted 65-ish% of all of the passing yards. I don't know what the number is exactly in my head, but it's something along those lines. Yeah, 65-ish%. And he just, that's ridiculous. That is an explosion every single time he touches the ball. The game changes. And it's why it doesn't matter what the score is at halftime. If you have a wide receiver like that on your team, the game's not over, because he can just change the entire game like that.
And we're going to go finally to the 4 digits. We talked about a lot of votes in the 3 digits. Well, we finally got one in the 4 digits. We're going to go to our number 5 player, who, Alex, this was actually my vote for player of the week this week.
This is Javon, correct?
Yep, Javon. Yep.
Javon Vital. Okay, I apologize. I'm not great when it comes to pronouncing names sometimes. That's on me. Javon Vital with 2,606 votes.
Yeah, he was, like I mentioned, Alex, he was my vote for really player of the week this week. And it's just because of what he did in the time he was able to do it. So that will make more sense as I explain it. But he had 5 carries for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's running. He also is the quarterback, so he completed 12 of 15 passes for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he runs the ball, he throws the ball, You don't see many guys do both, but he can also return punts as well. He had 2 punt returns for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. So make that a game. You're thinking 375 total yards and 6 total touchdowns is impressive enough. Well, he only did it in one half of football because he rested the second half in a 60-7 win over Highland Baptist. I mean, I'm shocked why Javon Vital was not the number 1 player based on his performance, but what an incredible performance. And that make matters even more interesting, he's only a sophomore coming up. So, just mind-blowing, Alex.
Oh, man. It's a 60-7 win, and this is the reason why. Oh man. Yeah, 375 total yards. He was on pace to put up 700 yards of offense on his own in one game, which just doesn't happen in football when you're winning games 60-7. 6 total touchdowns in one half of football. It's the one half of football that I think is so mind-boggling about this performance. And we talked about this earlier with like efficiency versus volume. He had both.
Yeah.
6 touchdowns in one half of football, 375 yards. And this isn't just an athlete doing everything and being electric with the football. He completed 12 passes. He was an efficient thrower of the football. 12 for 15 passes for a decent number of passing yards, a respectable number of passing yards, alongside being the most electric runner on the field and being unstoppable in punt returns. He does everything. He's the everything player. Do it all. And yeah, I absolutely understand. It's tough. It goes to show you how difficult the winning one of these awards is. But I totally understand where you're coming from. We were like, how does this guy not win?
Right.
It's an absolutely unbelievably impressive performance.
Yeah, they got my vote. Unfortunately, did not get the top spot because there's some pretty good performances that go over in their top 4.
And it's worth mentioning, I'll move on to number 4 in just a second, but it's worth mentioning that was the big tier jump. We talked about 600, 700 votes.
Right.
Now we're in the thousands, 2,000, 3,000. So this 5 through 2 gap is pretty low.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, a guy that he was number 5, but you re-roll what happened here 10 times and he might be the number 2 guy very easily, which feels a little bit more understandable. Right?
Yeah.
You can maybe live with that a little bit more if you just look at the stat line. You're like, okay, well, that's maybe the best football player on the planet. I don't know.
Yeah.
You made a high school football team, and I don't admittedly know that much about Highland Baptist, but he made them look like a peewee school. And those are teenagers. Those are people your age. So actually many older than him. Anyway, number 4 is Jaden Chavis with 3,235 votes.
Yeah, plays for Northwest High School. Northwest actually had 2 of our players from our bowl game last year. One of them's a running back. The other one was a defensive end. They made the semifinals last year. It was it was a Cinderella run. Not a lot of people were expecting to make the run that they did, and now they have a chance to really build on that this year. And they have a quarterback in Jaden Chavis, like you mentioned, Alex. Talk about efficient. He was. As efficient as you can possibly be. He completed 11 of 12 passes for 244 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also added in a rushing touchdown. And they took control over a really good Rain football team. 50-14 was the final score. One of the more shocking final scores I've seen. But it was all because of a great performance. That's what you want from a quarterback. Not only to have those splash plays, score those touchdowns like he did, but be very efficient. Don't turn the ball over and control the game.
Yeah, it's a really impressive performance. We talked about a 400-yard game earlier, and you might just look at this at a glance and go, well, why didn't the 400-yard game have more than this? Well, part of it is results. Part of it is you talked about it being one of the more shocking results of the week, and part of it is the efficiency. He only threw 1 incomplete pass. He had 244 yards of passing. We're talking about 20 yards per attempt. Every time the ball leaves his hands, it's a chunk play. And not only that, but they won a game against a team that, beating Rain by 36 points doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah.
And the whole team around him is really good. I think there's been a lot of buzz around the running back at Northwest as well, correct?
Right.
The stat line wasn't as gaudy this week, but when you throw the ball 12 times and you only throw one incompletion, the volume's not crazy, but also if you're blowing out a team that badly, how many times do you have to throw the football? Mm-hmm. And to do that to a team that's very good and just blow the doors off of them, a lot of that is down to the quarterback as well. So it's not just what you see in the stat line, as efficient and as impressive as it is. It's the team result that I think when a quarterback looks that good, and the team is great around him. Mm-hmm. But that's, I think, part of not just the fact that he made the list, but also how well he did.
Right, absolutely. And then we're going to go to our number 3 spot. And at number 3 is a very familiar name to our Gridiron football fans.
Yes, 2023 Gridiron Football Player of the Year, Caven Bryant, with 3,250 votes. One of the closest races between 3 and 4 of the entire ranking.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, really between 2 through 5. I mean, it was all really close. And we're going to talk about Caven Bryant. Obviously, we're waiting on it. We're waiting on Coach to send in his nomination for Caven. And I was like, all right, Coach Bishop, when's it coming? Because we're expecting Caven, obviously the defending Gridiron Football Player of the Year, and only going into his sophomore year, or already has Power 4 offers to play quarterback in college. I know at the SMUs of the world, a lot of the big Texas programs have offered him. And then just also add this to the fact, he's probably even better in basketball than football, which is just mind-blowing in itself. But what an athlete he is, one of the top really athletes out there in the country for his grade level in class of 2027. And he had a great performance. It's like kind of like your usual day in the office. Like if it was anybody else, like, oh wow, that's very impressive. But this is Caven Bryant. It's like another day in the office for him, right? But he completed 10 of 12 passes for 202 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also had 6 carries, which is good. I mean, this has been running back numbers have been good. 6 carries, 122 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns. Add that all together, 324 total yards and 6 total touchdowns, and a big win over Timpson. This Westwood team could be one of the best teams ever in school history.
And they've got 2 more years of them afterwards.
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary.
This 2027 quarterback class, I think there's been a lot of buzz around it in Louisiana as well, with named number 1 prospect in the country, Elijah Haven from Dunham, and I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about him.
I'm sure we will
at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
But for now, Caven Bryant over in Texas, he has a little bit to say about that. That number 1 ranking, perhaps. Just as a freshman, he was unbelievable, not stopping at all. This stat line is sort of ridiculous. He put together, he did both the thing that Jaden Chavis did, and the thing that Xavier Strow did.
And then in one game.
One game, yep. That doesn't happen. That's not how playing. Both of those guys made this list. Deservedly so, and for him in one game to do both, those 6 carries at an unbelievable efficiency, as well as having the ball hit the ground twice in one game, putting up 6 touchdowns. Again, you must be this tall to ride. Just the 6 touchdown performance. As much as the number 5, Javon Vital's performance was good, this is where my vote went. This is a ridiculous performance, and again, maybe you could argue, well, he's going to do it, probably 3 more times this season, so you want to give some love, and that's nothing, no disparaging of Javon Vital, but this was an unbelievable performance.
Yeah, Caven, he's trying to repeat, right, as Gridiron Football Player of the Year, and he debuts in 2024 at our number 3 spot. And then we're going to go to our number 2 spot, somebody that's also pretty familiar with Gridiron Football. He's actually one of our player profile cards on our website.
Number 2 is Kane West with 4,050 votes.
I know there was an effort from St. Edmund. I mean, I even saw a video on Facebook, actually, of a woman posting, "Hey guys, it's unlimited votes." Like I got like 50 tabs open. I'm like pressing vote every time, then going to the next tab. So I mean, we gotta give credit to her because I think she played a really good role in Kane West being shooting up all the way up to number 2. But this is impressive knowing that St. Edmund has always been a team that hasn't really thrown the ball too much. It's not like they're St. Thomas More or any of the really teams that throw the ball a whole ton. or Evangel or a team like that. But Kane West had 300 yards passing and 5 touchdowns, and they pretty much blew the doors off of Thomas Jefferson, 54-19. I saw St. Edmund in a scrimmage earlier in the fall, and I was really impressed with their passing game with Kane West and some of the receiving options, and that was at full display in a 54-19 win over Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, it's a great passing attack, and the ability to spread it out to a number of different weapons throughout it is what makes St. Edmund a team that I think it doesn't have the the high, but it can be a really good team this year, especially in one of the lower classifications. It's a great team, and the story about the lady that found this out. Yeah, it's not just how many people vote, but how many votes is what we're telling. Right. There's no limit to that. So a lot of it is effort. A lot of it is not just how many people you can get, but how much you can affect those people with those performances and move them to go, yeah, I'm not just going to vote for this guy once. I'm going to vote for him over and over and over and over again. How much effort you can convince people to do. So yeah, a lot of it is campaigning, but it's a well-deserved performance. Oh yeah, it's a really efficient performance. It's a really great win for St. Edmund, and congratulations to him for getting for ranking so high up there. But with the small gap between 2 and 5, it makes a difference. He didn't end up winning, and we'll talk about that in a second. And I don't know how many people out there with clicking it 50 times could have made that difference, but it very well might have changed him from being the 5th ranked player to the 2nd. Yeah. And that does make a difference. That does mean something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we talk about fan support, the community support. That's really the difference here. Now, we try and narrow it down to 10 or 12 that we feel like, okay, if they win it, if that person wins it, we can see winning the player of the week, and that's what we try to do. But we leave it up to the fans really to decide who the player of the week should be, and that goes perfectly with whoever does win or player of the week. Before we go to our number 1 spot, Alex, I want to say thank you to everybody that's voted for this week's Gridiron Football Player of the Week. We add something this week too, and we actually open a nonprofit side to Gridiron Football. So we add that to the votes, and this actually made a difference for a number 1 winner. But you can vote as many times as you want for free. You can do that. That's an option. But if you want to donate to Gridiron Football, support the bowl game. The money's being donated for 4 MVPs for both teams, offense and defense, for both the winning bowl game team and the losing bowl game team, to help them go to college, and you have a chance to donate for a great cause. But also, for every dollar that you donate, that will be 10 votes to a player of your choosing. So if you donate $10, that's 100 votes, and you can say I want to submit my vote for Caven Bryant. We'll add 100 votes to Caven Bryant. So that's another way you can help your player win Player of the Week and also support a great cause. I encourage you to do so when we have our Gridiron Football Player of the Weeks. And actually, a couple of people donated money for a number 1 winner. So that did make a difference for a number 1 winner. And Alex, who is the Gridiron Football Player of the Week.
This number is astounding. It makes me wonder. Number 1 is Zaden Foster with 11,366 votes. Compare that to number 2, which was a great number, 11,366 votes.
Yeah, I think if you combine 2, 3, and 4, I don't think it still would have been enough. I mean, this is one of the most lopsided scores that we've seen.
Adding in number 5, who was also in that group, barely
outpaces it. So this is as impressive as a voting performance. Really, round of applause. I gotta say, round of applause, hand clap. Liberty High School, y'all made a difference in this one. Zaden Foster, he is definitely deserving of the Gridiron Football Player of the Week. Look at his numbers, right? Him and Zaden Foster, Dedrick Welsh had a good Batman Robin thing going for sure. 7 carries, 235 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Also had a catch for 32 yards, had 90 yards in return yardage, and another touchdown. plus a 2-point conversion. So he did a little bit of everything. He had 26 points by himself against White Castle. Was part of that big 72-26 win over White Castle. Huge performance for Zaden Foster. Congratulations, Zaden, Andy Boone. We'll throw in Dedrick as well, even though Dedrick didn't win Player of the Week. But that was all you, Patriots fans. Congratulations. Great job, great effort on helping Zaden win this award.
Absolutely. Very well deserved. We talked about, I voted for this guy, I voted for this guy. Everyone that made this ballot is someone who is deserving of winning the award. And we talk about, the votes making a difference. You definitely see an example of the Liberty fan base kind of seeing two candidates and making sure we're not going to have someone finish 5th and 6th. We're going to put all our eggs in one basket and make sure we have the best chance of one of our players winning this. And that's absolutely nothing against Dedrick Welsh. I don't think anybody that was thinking about that was going, he didn't do good enough. No, if he didn't have, in my opinion, one of the best performances of the week sitting next to him, it very well might be him in the seat instead. But Zaden Foster absolutely deserved. I didn't vote for him, like I said, but I talked about this when we were discussing who to include and who not to. In my opinion, he had the more impressive performance of the two Liberty running backs.
Yeah.
Because the efficiency numbers are just so insane. This is 32 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That's a third of the football field.
Glad you did the math.
Every single time you touch the ball, that is a punt.
Yeah.
That you are moving the
Pretty
field.
much.
There will be high school punters that average 32 yards a punt, at least. That you are flipping the field every single time you touch the ball, and a return. 26 points is the same number of points, again, poor White Castle. That White Castle scored in the game. So we're talking about genuinely a single player with a single player's workload, only 7 carries and 1 return, putting together an entire team's worth of performance. That is so impressive, so deserving. Both of the running backs had a great performance. Both of the running backs had a great game. But that's the one that stands out to me from an efficiency standpoint. That is just out of this world incredible. More than deserving of this Player of the Week award. Congratulations. Absolutely go out to Zaden Foster and everybody out there at Liberty for an amazing week, but also just a great game from the individual player as well. So deserving of our Week 2 Gridiron Football Player of the Week award.
Yeah, I think, you said it best. What a week it was for Liberty, right? You win that big on Friday night. You win big over a good White Castle team, 72-26, and you follow that up with winning the Gridiron Football Player of the Week vote. So, great week for the Liberty Patriots. Hopefully they can keep that going. But congratulations, Zaden Foster. So, what does that mean going forward? Well, that means Zaden's going to get a Gridiron Football Player of the Week interview with us. That way for him to also give some exposure to him, do a little interview with him. He also gets some pretty cool gear as well. So these athletes got Letterman jackets, of course they do. So what we do is we try to help them out. We have a Gridiron Football Player of the Week Letterman jacket patch. So that way when they wear their Letterman jackets to school, they get to show off the Letterman jacket patch. Say, hey, I was the Gridiron Football Player of the Week, to show that around. So that's going to be really cool. So Zaden will get a chance to get his Letterman jacket patch. But congratulations, Zaden. We'll do an interview. Maybe we'll get Dedrick involved as well with Coach Boone, because he was a part of that performance too. So congratulations, Zaden. And thank you to all the fans that voted. And like I said, 4 fans actually donated money for Zaden to win the Gridiron Football Player of the Week. So, hey, if you want your player to win, put in the effort the Patriots fans did, and donate money to Gridiron Football. All the money is going towards the Gridiron Football Bowl game and the 4 MVPs, the 4 scholarships. So it is going to a really good cause. So make sure to do that next time as well. Alex, any final thoughts about this week before we wrap up the show?
No, it was just a great week. We had a great week in Week 1. Another really great week. Really stiff competition. Don't feel like just because there were plenty of people that submitted names, submitted players, and they didn't make the cut. Just because that happened doesn't mean it wasn't an impressive performance. We see plenty of games every week, and we have plenty of people submit games to us each week, and a lot of them are really impressive that we go, maybe they're, oftentimes we're like, well, the first, second, third person we're looking at, we're like, well, this is a great game. And then we get to the end and we're like, only 150 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's great. That's an amazing
really
performance. But we only choose that 10 to 12-ish range, and this is a little bit of a different week because we had multiple situations where multiple players from the same team, and we're like, do we want the quarterback? Do we want the wide receiver?
Yeah,
which Liberty running back do you include? We included both. So that 10 to 12-ish range of players that for 13, 14, 15, it's still an honorable mention. We're still going to list
we'll list all the nominees on our website. So actually when this video is streaming, you can go and click the link. It will give you more of a descriptive performance, break down each performance and votes and all the players that just missed a cut but were honorable mentions this week. So we appreciate all the fans that submitted their Player of the Week nominees, all the coaches that submitted their Player of the Week nominees, and then appreciate everybody. And then obviously the games we go to, we include their performances as well. So great effort. Looking forward for a lot of nominees, Alex, and appreciate you coming on the show. Looking forward to catching up each week and breaking down this list. And congratulations, we have a defensive player from week 1. We got a running back in week 2. So we'll see what week 3 provides us here on our Gridiron Football Player of the Week show. Thank y'all for watching. Enjoy the football festivities this weekend.